Technology, gotta love it. So I was getting ready to put this video together, and I got to my clip in the where I showed you guys how I start with my cams and everything on the same plane, and how I do that. And I had no audio on that clip, so I'm going to reshoot it here. Um, so where I start, so starting point for these bows, technology is um, it's it makes your life easy. All right. It makes pro shops' lives easy. One of the things I wanted to talk to you just briefly about before I dig into this is pro shops and this process. Um, if if you ain't got deep pockets, don't expect your pro shop to do this for you. This process takes time, is very labor intensive. They don't have most pro shops don't have the time and ability to do this for you for free. You need to learn how to work on your stuff. You need to buy the equipment to do it if you're serious about it. Um, there's ways to cheat this process and get around it, and that's okay. It will work. It just may not. It won't work for me. I have too much OCD in me to allow me to say it's good enough. It has to be perfect. Um, but this is a long, labor-intensive process. Um, there's some trial and error in it. Noctuning arrows, um, spending time with you in a shooting lane to coach you through your inconsistencies. Uh, the list goes on and on. And most pro shops they're going to charge you a lot of money to do that. So if you're not willing to get off that wallet and pay it, and you can't expect them to do it for free, uh, you need to learn how to do this stuff. You need to buy a little bit of equipment um, and start tinkering with it. But I'm going to start with these set bows. This makes when Elite came out with set technology and these rotating mods on these cams, they made the need for a lot of equipment to work on bows less for you, the end user. Um, it's a really simple setup. They've made it even simpler by telling you which way to turn stuff. They've got little labels on the side of the riser. But where I start with all my bows, whether it be a hunting bow, target bow, whatever, is I want my string and my two cams and my arrow rest the center of my arrow rest, I should say, to all be running on the same plane. And the way I start that is by making sure that my cams are laying on the same plane. Now, they may not end up that way. They may end up with a little pitch to them. I may have to adjust my set a little bit and counteract my torque and my grip or whatever in relation to the center shot of my bow and the grip and all sorts of variables there. But I start with everything on the same plane. And the way I do that is I'll take an arrow shaft and I'll run it down the side of the cam. You can lay these bows on a table and do this. You don't have to have this vise. You can lay it flat on a table. They've got big, flat, wide limb pockets on them, and that makes it pretty easy. But I'll find a good, wide, flat spot, and I'll take me an arrow shaft, and I'll run it down alongside of the cam, and I will look at the way that arrow shaft runs in relationship to my string. Is it pitching off to one side or the other? And if it is, then I'm going to loosen the lock screw on my set adjustment, and I'm going to turn my set screw, the adjustment screw on my set until the gap where the arrow shaft comes off the cam, the distance between the string and the arrow shaft is the same all the way down. They're running parallel to each other. All right, and when I get that done, I'm going to turn my lock back down. I'm going to lock it in, and I'm going to take a silver Sharpie and I'm going to put a little dot on my adjustment screw and on the riser that lines up, and that is top dead center. That's where I want to start, and I'll do that top and bottom so that both the cams and the string are laying in the same plane. And then in the next step, I'm going to make sure that my arrow rest is also in that plane. But that's in the next clip. But I just wanted to take a second and show you that real quick. I lost that clip in my original filming, so didn't have the audio. But that's where I start the tuning process on these bows. Okay, so I've got my D-loop tied in and my knock points. I got everything squared, 90 degrees, the way I want through my burger hole. Now I need to set my center shot. You got to remember on these set technology bows, whenever you make an adjustment, you're moving the string left and right in relationship to the riser. And I like to try to start with everything running right down the center. My cams are running straight up and down. They're in the same plane as my string. And I want my arrow shaft to be running in that same plane as well. That's my starting point. All right. As I move this string in and out with my set technology, as I make an adjustment, it pitches. Let me do it like this. The cam's this way or this way. So this point of the cam is moving left and right as I make that adjustment. Well, that brings the string, the plane, if I make it the equal adjustments top and bottom, it changes the relationship of this string to the center of the bow. Right now, everything is centered up. Everything is to factory center. My cams are straight up and down, parallel and horizontal. They are in the same plane as one another. If that makes any sense. Go back to your old geometry days and understand what plane is, right? So, the string and the cams are all on the same plane. I want my arrow to be running down that same plane as well. In order to do that, I'm going to take an arrow shaft, I'm going to lay it alongside of the riser, and I'm going to look to make sure that the gap down through here is the same as it is here and at the end, just like I did with my cams when I was adjusting my set to start the process. So sometimes that gets a little tricky with different rest setups. You may run, depending on where your adjustments lies. For these, it's not too bad. It seems like I've got plenty of adjustment on these handskis to do this. So I'm going to get this set up, and then we're going to roll on to the next step. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside and I'm going to shoot the bow a few times. Just blank bell, 5-6 yards, just boom, boom, boom. And that kind of goes into why I put my peep side in last. I want my D-loop to find where it wants to set. So I've got it set in there tight, and blah, blah, blah. But whenever I shoot it, that I put a lot of pressure on that D-loop, right? And I'm going to fire it into the bail a few times. And what it's going to do is it's going to set that D-loop for how it wants to run in relationship to the back of the string, right? And by doing that way, giving it a few shots, letting everything settle in, get this in good and tight, I know where my string is for when I put my peep sight in. So when I put this peep sight in, I want it to face, a certain direction right down the arrow shaft. And if I line that up with the way that my D-loop is setting, whenever I put it in the press, decompress it, if I line that peep sight up with my D-loop, it's real close to turning just like I want it to whenever I take it out to shoot it. And I don't have to mess with twisting and timing the peep sight and peep tuners and stuff like that nearly as much if I'll take that one little step. Put your D-loop on, take it out, shoot it half a dozen times, and then come in and start thinking about putting your peep sight in. That saves you a lot of trouble with tuning your peep. All right, so I've got my D-loop tied in, set the way I want, got my knocking points, got my center shot like I want, got my peep sight tied in, got everything pretty much done. I'm not going to BS you guys. I went through the process of getting this thing paper tuned the way that I like to have them tuned off camera, because let's just face it, nobody wants to watch a 30-minute video of somebody paper tuning their bow. In a perfect world, we set them up, we eyeball them, we line them up down the middle, and we walk up there and we shoot them through paper, and they're perfect first time. But it's not, we don't live in a perfect world, right? So I've tinkered with this a little bit. My starting point is always, it gives me a place to always fall back to. I can try something one way and come back to center. I can try something the other way and come back to center. I can make adjustments, shimming the cams, or whatever it is that I want to do and need to do to work through the tuning process to get this bow shooting the way that I want to. What I ended up doing was had to put about 5/8 of a turn into my set and adjust my rest a little bit left and right to get my center shot to match up, and finally got it shooting a bullet hole. So now when I say shooting a bullet hole, let's talk about what I do for my hunting bows. We've talked about arrow builds. We've talked about what I like in an arrow. Now, how do I paper tune? I paper tune with a bare shaft. All right. I start up close, 3 feet, get it shooting a hole, a good, clean, perfect hole. Then I'll back up to 6 or 7 yards, and I want to shoot that same clean hole at distance as I do up close. And once I've got that done, typically what I will see is when I go to 20 and shoot a bare shaft and a fletch shaft, they'll hit side by side. A bare shaft will tell on you. If you struggle with form, if you struggle with execution, if you're not really good at what you're doing, that bare shaft are going to tell you what you're doing wrong. Bare shafts are hard to shoot, whether it be through paper or at distance. They're not easy to shoot. And that's something that you guys need to all kind of be honest with yourself about, is what is my ability level? Can I actually even do some of this? Can I shoot well enough? Is my form good enough? Am I wasting my time trying to, really fine tune some of this stuff? Do I even have the ability to do it? You just need to be honest with yourself and decide what that is. Sometimes the best way to set your bow up is to learn how to shoot your bow. I'm just being honest with you. So that being said, I went through the tuning process. I'm going to shoot it through paper here and show you what I'm talking about. I'm backed up here at 6, 7 yards. Now, one of the reasons I do it this way is because I want these arrows flying perfectly straight out of the bow. Because when I put a broadhead on the end of them, and it doesn't matter what size broadhead it is, it will affect the flight of that arrow. And if it's not perfect coming out of the bow all the way down range, it's going to plane. And then that's when you notice that my field points and my broadheads, they don't hit the same. And then the second thing that I want to make sure that I get done, and we've talked about this, is these fletchings. All right, I want a good helical fletch or offset. I want that arrow to spin as fast as I can get it to spin as it's traveling down range to help stabilize that broadhead and get that air flowing around the broadhead and not across the top of it. If I can make that arrow spin as quick as I can get it to spin right out of the bow and get that arrow circulating around the broadhead and not necessarily down the sides of it, it helps reduce the ability for that broadhead to plane. Okay. So when I do that, it makes it more consistent. Another thing that helps is speed. Speed kills in a lot of different ways. The faster this bow is shooting, the harder it is to get these things done. It's just the way it is. I have found for myself that a 275 to 280 feet a second bow is the happy medium for me. My broadheads are easier to tune at that speed, and I still have enough speed and kinetic energy to perform as good as anything out in the market, anything out there. So this ends up, I shot this over the graph, this setup 450 grain arrow, 277 feet a second. I can live with that. I'm only pulling 65 pounds. I shot 70 pounds for years, but I started ordering these bows in 65-pound configurations because I was shooting tournaments with them as well as hunting with them. So these are 65-pound bows, shooting 450 grain arrow at 277 feet a second, and I'm taking it to the woods. It's going to work great. It's quieter typically when you shoot these bows a little bit slower like that, they're a little quieter, a little less vibration. The arrow sucks up a lot of that at that speed. It's a really good place to live. So what I'm getting ready to do, I'll shoot this through paper and show you what the hole looks like. And I'm going to fall back on what I was talking about that arrow flying perfectly. In target archery, a lot of times we'll go back to distance and we will tinker with our rest and we will adjust it left and right, up and down, and we're group tuning, right? Or you'll see guys that want to bear shaft tune at distance. And I've done all of that stuff. French tune, bear shaft tune, group tune, all that stuff. I've done all that stuff. And they all work really well uh, in different conditions and different scenarios on target bows. But to me personally, and some of you are going to say, oh, that's how I do my hunting bow and it works just fine. Well, that's fine. Do it that way. Whatever gives you the most confidence in what you're looking for in your setup, that's how you need to do it. But to me, the most important piece of any hunting bow is that it fly perfectly straight. There's too many benefits to that: penetration, accuracy, you name it. Consistency with broadheads. It needs to fly perfectly straight. You can group tune, you can bear shaft tune, you can do some things on a target rig with field points, and close those groups up. But you may have a little bit of a kick in that area. It may not be flying perfectly straight, and when you do that with a broadhead, you're going to get some craziness. So those are one ways that's one of the ways that shooting tuning a hunting bow is different than a target rig. It's important, again, to be realistic with yourself and your abilities, regardless of what type of bow you're tuning. But I think, like I said, the most important piece of a hunting bow setup is perfect arrow flight. That's where it starts. So I'm going to shoot this through the paper. It's 6-7 steps, whatever we are here, and then I'll walk you down here and show you the hole in the paper, and then I'm going to take it over and shoot the target at 20 and show you where my bear shaft and my fletch shaft land. I've already done this, guys. I did this off camera. Nobody wants to watch a 30-40 minute video of somebody paper tuning their bow. I'm just going to show you. That one kicked a little. Like I said, these bear shafts will lie, or not lie. They'll tell on you. They'll make you a liar. All right, let's walk down there and look at those. Sorry, my camera fell over on me. Let me zoom in on these. Let me turn this around and zoom in on these. Let you take a look at them, and then I may shoot that bear shaft again. All right, those are the two holes I just shot in the paper. The one on the left, fletch shaft, it's pretty good. The one on the right looks like it's tearing a little bit right, and that's what I found with this setup, is it wanted to tear a little bit right. Let me shoot those again, and we'll look at that bear shaft again, see what it does. All right, like I said, these bear shafts will expose your flaws. It's not easy to shoot bear shafts through paper or at distance. Let's see if I can do it. Like I say, I've done this. I had this thing shooting a good hole just a minute ago. Let me try it again. That's a little better. Go down there and look at that one. Turn this around so that you can see. I'm not trying to pull anything over on anybody. It's still got just a little bit of a tear to it. That's a little bit of a left tear. Again, those things will tell on you. It's hard to see Sometimes, you know, if you want to really work on your form, you want to really work on your shot execution, you know, get your bow tuned, step back at 7, 8, 9 yards and shoot through paper with a bare shaft. It will show you what your inconsistencies are. Let's go down here 20, shoot a bare shaft and a fletch shaft into the bale. You can see where they land. All right, we're going to shoot them at 20 here. I'll shoot the bare shaft and a fletch shaft in the bale at 20. And we'll walk down there and see where they land. Well, let's walk down there and look. Not too bad. I wasn't trying to, like I say, I hadn't sighted the bow in or anything, so the actual point of impact is irrelevant. I just wanted to see if they would hit together. And they do. That's not too bad. 20 yards. Now, let's talk about that just a second. So, like I was telling you guys, I'm not trying to BS anybody. This isn't an easy process. There's a lot goes into setting these things up and making them shoot everything in the same place. Perfect arrow flight is the key to it. And a lot of your tuning techniques that you see on the internet are more geared towards target archery stuff and less about perfect arrow flight. And perfect arrow flight there's two factors. One is you. That's the number one factor. And two is your equipment and the adjustments made to get that perfect arrow flight out of that bow. Center shot adjustments, set technology or cam spacing, wheel lean, you name it. A lot of things affect that. Spine of the arrow, fletching configuration, so many different variables that come into play, and it takes time. All right, I said earlier that I'd done all this up front, and it still lied, or it still told on me there at the paper that bare shaft did. I've done a lot of this work ahead of time yesterday to show you guys what this setup's going to look like. It takes time, and if you get in a hurry and you expect to be able to do and be done with it in one day, you're going to cheat yourself. You're going to cheat your setup, you're going to cheat yourself, and you're not going to be happy with it. Be patient, take your time. If you get frustrated with it, walk away from it and come back to it the next day. These bows, and I don't care if it's an elite or what it is, they are sometimes finicky. Not any two bows going to work the same. You got to find out what works for that setup and you and the way that you shoot it. Speed, arrow setup, fletchings, consistency in the shot, and a good tune. Those are critical to being able to find a setup that will shoot all of your broadheads and field points in the same place at distance. So what's next? I've done my paper tune. I've checked it on in the bale. This test doesn't do much for me, honestly, because I can make bare shafts and fletch shafts shoot together without shooting a decent hole in paper. This is just typically when you get a really good hole in paper, you're going to get this as a byproduct. But sometimes in my target setups, those two things don't necessarily relate to the groups that I'm looking for. And that's because of the way that I shoot. Um, Broadheads are harder to shoot than field points consistently. So I need perfect arrow flight to achieve that. But this is a good this is a good starting point. So now what I'm getting ready to do is put broadheads on the ends of some of these arrows and start shooting them at 40 yards. That's where I like to test for broadheads and field points I'll shoot all. I've got a bunch of different um, expandable practice points. I've got the BMP point that G5 makes. I've got the Schwacker practice point. I've got some old Rage practice points. Um, I'm not too worried about what that. I've never even shot a Rage and won't. But those practice points will be just fine for me to test how these things shoot at distance. And then I'll put a Stinger buzz cut on, or a Montec, or a Thunderhead, and I'll shoot it, and then I'll shoot a field point, and I'll check them to see that everything is hitting together. I can just about bet you that I'm not going to have to make many more changes to this setup to get me to where I want to be, but I have the ability to. If I notice that my field points and broadheads are way apart, and when I say way, I'm talking about 4 or 5 inches at 40, I can tweak my set and move it just a little bit and not really affect my hole in paper. And I'm talking about micro adjustments. Same way with my rest. I can tweak my rest just a little bit, not really affect my hole in the paper. Micro adjustments to start closing that gap, because a little bit at the bow makes a big difference at 40 yards with a broadhead. So it's a process. It'll take me some time. I get it to the point where I like it, I'll come back and do another video and show you guys some broadheads downrange. I'll shoot some into the target and we'll look at that. But yeah, that pretty much gets me through my Ethos setup. This is what I'm going to carry to the woods this fall. I think it's going to be pretty deadly. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to getting to hunt a bunch this year. I didn't get to hunt any last year for work, but this year I don't have any other obligations other than family and our business that we own here, and the rest of the time I'm going to try to spend in the fall in the woods trying to shoot some deer. So y'all follow along. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. This video will probably get a little long-winded, so it's probably going to be on YouTube. I'll do a TikTok video kind of overview, and then if you go to my link, if you go to my bio in TikTok, if you're seeing this on TikTok, you can click it. It says Instagram at the bottom. You click on Instagram, and it'll give you the option to Instagram and YouTube, and you can click on either one of those, and it'll take you to either one of those pages. So thank y'all for watching. Follow along, share it, subscribe, and I'll keep trying to put out some of these redneck videos for you guys. I'm an old man just trying to share a little knowledge with some of y'all. If you got any questions, or if you have any comments, send me a private message, and I'll do my best to answer those. If you are in the North Arkansas area and you don't have your stuff ready for hunting season yet, and you're looking for a place to get your stuff, Ash Flat, Arkansas, Razorback Archery, Jeff Holden, David Gibson, Rusty, James, those guys will fix you up. They're good to me. They're great guys. I support them every way possible, and I hope that you do too.